what a great environment that the Grizz have right here in Missoula. And I've got, as you know, my cameraman from the SEC network. I've got Jesse Palmer, who was an outstanding quarterback at Florida, played in the National Football League for well onto a decade. And Maria Taylor was an All-American volleyball player at Georgia. They've never been to Montana. So part of what I've said to the network is I really need my crew from the SEC. And they came up, and I can't tell you how enthusiastic the cameramen are. One volunteered for the job because he used to do the Big Sky game of the week, so he'd been in here. And, on top of it, we're bringing in a team that I hope everybody appreciates what North Dakota State has accomplished. I mean, I don't care what division it is. When you win 4 national championships, that speaks of John Wooden and what went on at UCLA, because everything's relevant. They had to come through some good teams to get these titles won. And they're coming in here with a veteran offense. The Grizz defense will have their hands full against these guys. And then, we've got Coach Stitt up for his first year with a brand new offense. And so it's, for an announcer, it's a little bit like our Christmas. A new season starts, and there's so many unknowns. Next week we'll be down at Gainesville for the Florida Gators. And believe it or not, you already know the coach down there is a fellow by the name of Jim McElwain, who's from Missoula, went to Sentinel High School here, and I'm sure he will want to know what went on and how did some of the Sentinel boys perform against North Dakota State. No, for me, it's a labor of love. It's really not like a job. I mean, driving up about an hour out of Hamilton, the hardest thing I had to do was to get tickets for the family. I mean, I cannot tell you how many people have asked me if I have any extra tickets, and that was one of the things the network promised me, and they came through.
Brent, in the interview you did with Sports Information here, you mentioned that Washington Grizzlies is one of the noisiest stadiums in all of college football. For the SEC folks that look at it and say there's no way that a stadium that small can be that loud, how do you respond to those folks?
It's funny you ask that question, because it has already come back to me from mentioning that. I said, wait a minute. We got 85,000, upwards of 100,000. What are you talking about? It's knowledgeable noise. Here's what people who have coached in here against the Grizz have told me. This crowd's not just noisy. They know that when it's 3rd and 3 and they're trying to communicate on the field with their offense, this crowd picks it up, okay? And they get really loud, and it's very hard to hear out on the field because it's so confined and so closed in. The Grizz, they get the ball 3rd and 3, sound goes out. That's what we call knowledgeable noise. So that would be the primary difference. Obviously, if you just put a meter down and you had 25,000 screaming fans against 85,000, we know who would win that. But that's not what goes on here in Missoula. And this coach had come in here. Actually, it was Coach Herman, who was the offensive coordinator for Ohio State when they won the national championship, is now the head coach at Houston. And he came in here in December for a playoff game, and he said, I've never been around noise like that in my life. When we most needed to communicate, they seemed to understand what we're trying to do out there. So, I'm sure that because North Dakota State plays in a dome, they're familiar with noise, and they've been pumping it into practice over there. So, and they're a pretty poised veteran team, but still in all, we'll see what happens.